lecture at distribution. We discussed all these cases, how distribution would work in all these four categorical propositions. And this is a summary of how distribution would work. So, for example, it says here that quantity determines if subject term will be distributed or not. So this is another way of looking at it. So quantity, what is that? So we know that it has to do with the universal and the particular aspect of the propositions, right? So if we're talking about the universal propositions, which are the A and the E proposition, then we can safely say that in these propositions, the subject terms are distributed. Similarly, in particular propositions, we can say that the subject term is undistributed. So hence, quantity determines if subject term will be distributed or not. Okay. Similarly, if you look at the last part of this slide, so quality determines if predicate term will be distributed or not. So quality, we know, has to do with whether the proposition is an affirmative one or a negative one. So if it's affirmative, we can safely say that the predicate term would be undistributed. And if it's negative, then it would be distributed. Okay, so this is another way of remembering which terms would be distributed and which aren't going to be. Okay, so today we're going to be talking about another concept, which is called opposition. So let's just look at the definition first, as we always do. So the definition of opposition is when standard form categorical propositions with the same subject and predicate terms. Okay, this is an important point. So the subject and the predicate terms are the same. So now we're looking at more than one standard form categorical proposition. So we're looking at two, to be precise. So it could be any A, E, I, O, A, I, whatever. Okay, but two. And the way that we're looking at them is with this in the same through the same lens of the subject and the predicate terms. So they have the same subject and the predicate term. Okay, while they have the same subject and the predicate term, they differ in quality or quantity or both. And when that happens, we say that opposition is at play. So that is what opposition is. So two standard form categorical propositions with the same subject and predicate term, but differing in quality, quantity, or both. Let's get into the detail of this. So there are four ways that this could work. Okay, so if you logically look at it, you can also think about it in like yourself. So how many ways are there of differing quality and quantity? So either you could differ quantity, either you could differ both, etc., etc. So we look at all these cases. So the first case is of contradictories. What is that? Let's just look at it. So we have two propositions, like we said, related in such a way that one is the denial or negation of the other. Okay, so we know what negation is. If we don't, so negation is simply basically, you can think of it as the opposite of something. So what is that? Let's just look at what the slide says. So propositions that cannot both be true or both be false. That is one property of contradictories. And the other property, which is something that you should remember, is that they differ both in quality as well as quantity. Okay, examples. So let's just look at this A proposition first. So if we say that all judges are lawyers, okay, we know that that is an A proposition. So what would be the O proposition of this having the same subject and the same predicate, but we're changing the quality and the quantity? So that would become some judges are not lawyers. Do you get that? So we changed from universal to particular. That's why it became some. And then we changed from affirmative to negative, which is why it became are not. Okay, so this changing basically of quality and quantity tells us that an opposition is at play. And this is which one? This is contradictory propositions. They are contradictories because of the pair exactly one is true and exactly one is false. So अगर आप इसको इस तरह सोचो कि इसमें से दोनों true नहीं हो सकते, because अगर हम कह रहे हैं कि all judges are lawyers, then it cannot be that some judges are not lawyers, right? So इनमें से जरूरी है कि एक ट्रू होगी और एक फॉल्स होगी. That is the first thing. So they cannot both be true and they cannot both be false either. So अगर आप ये बोलो कि all judges are lawyers अगर false है, then some judges are not lawyers has to be true. And the other way around also. So if you say that some judges are not lawyers is false, then all judges are lawyers has to be true. So this is the relationship between contradictories. So A and O propositions are always contradictories. Okay, this is now we're in the theory of logic. So this is how it is. So अगर आप एक बात कर रहे हो, A कह रहे हो, so O जो है वो अगर A true है तो O false होना उसका जरूरी है. दोनों false नहीं हो सकते, दोनों true नहीं हो सकते. इसी तरह E and I propositions are also contradictories. So if I say no politicians are idealists, which is an E categorical proposition, and I say some politicians are idealists, which is an I categorical proposition, so they are also opposing each other in quantity and quality. ठीक है, इन दोनों में भी वही रिलेशनशिप है जो हमने A और O में देखा है. They cannot both be true, they cannot both be false. Okay, so ये contradictories हो गए. The second part of this is contraries. Okay, so what is that? Two propositions so related that they cannot both be true, although both may be false. So अब हमने थोड़ी सी restrictions, conditions थोड़ी सी बढ़ा दी हैं. अब हम कह रहे हैं कि वो true तो नहीं हो सकती दोनों, लेकिन वो false हो सकती हैं. ठीक है? So इनमें क्या cases हैं? Let's just look at them. So contraries are universal propositions A and E. So A and E propositions का ये relationship है बीच में कि उनकी quality जो है वो तो बदल रही है. ठीक है, एक पॉजिटिव है एक नेगेटिव है, affirmative negative A and E का आप देख सकते हैं, but दोनों यूनिवर्सल हैं. So that means quality is changing but the quantity is not, because it's obviously universal. और आप इसका एग्जांपल भी देख लें, अगर हम कहते हैं all poets are dreamers and we say no poets are dreamers, तो ये दोनों ट्रू नहीं हो सकती, क्योंकि अगर आप एक बात करें ऑब्वियसली फिर आप दूसरी उसको गलत हो जाएगी ना, एक ट्रू है दूसरी फॉल्स हो ही होएगी, लेकिन दोनों फॉल्स हो सकती हैं. ठीक है, ऑल पोएट्स आर ड्रीमर्स भी फॉल्स हो सकता है और नो पोएट्स आर ड्रीमर्स भी फॉल्स हो सकता है. सो ये इसकी डेफिनेशन है that you have to remember. Both cannot be true but both can be false, which is very different from the contradictories. Okay, अच्छा अब इसमें there's a little problem, and the problem is कि what if one of these propositions, जिस तरह हम अब इसकी बात करें contraries की, उसमें से अगर एक proposition जो है वो universally necessarily true हो. ठीक है, necessarily true से मुराद है कि जो ऐसी चीज जो कि false हो ही नहीं सकती. ठीक है, for example if we say that all squares are rectangles, ठीक है, अब ये false तो हो ही नहीं सकता. We know that all squares are rectangles. So इस केस में क्या बनेगा? इस केस में तो ये हम लोग will be you know it's going to be problematic because हमने यहाँ पर बोला है कि दोनों false हो सकती हैं, लेकिन अगर necessarily true हो जाए एक, तो फिर तो दोनों false नहीं हो सकती. So इस cases के लिए, इस situation में से निकलने के लिए what we do is the following. So both cannot be false because necessarily true proposition cannot be false. So the solution to this dilemma is to say that propositions in question are contingent. This is the word that you should remember. Contingent जो है वो चीजें होती हैं, वो propositions होती हैं जो कि necessarily ना तो true होती हैं और ना तो necessarily false होती हैं. So हमेशा जब इस theory को हम बढ़ाएंगे या आगे लेके चलेंगे, so इसमें हम contingent propositions को ही deal करेंगे इसके अंदर, because वरना we'll get into this dilemma which is just exactly that I talked about. ठीक है? Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to stop here and let you think about this now. So जितना हमने आज तक ये 11 मैंने इसकी slides की हैं अभी तक, so the remaining I think I'm going to do them in the next lecture because this is a little heavy. So think about this, ठीक है? If you have any questions, if you have any comments, please write to me and think about this also. Like try to have fun with it, especially the part जिसके अंदर ये बात हो रही है कि अगर एक ट्रू है तो दूसरी फॉल्स नहीं हो सकती. like this is very interesting because इस तरह की बहुत सारी चीजें आपको दुनिया में और नजर आएंगी, समझ आएंगी कि आप देख रहे हो और वो अगर एक सच है तो उसको आप नेगेट नहीं कर सकते, उसकी दूसरी चीज जो है हैज टू बी फॉल्स. So think about this and tell me what, if any ideas come to you, or just if anything, if nothing else, just like try to like understand the lecture. Okay. So in the next class I'll go over the remaining slides because this is this this slides are इसमें थोड़ी ज्यादा हैं, 22 I think है, तो अगले में मैं फिर बाकी कवर करूंगा. ठीक है. All right. Take care guys. See you. Bye.